I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Well, I know Katy Keene was off for a little bit, but have no fear. We are back, and all of us are here. Plus one more. We have co-creator and executive producer Michael Grassi with us today, and we are talking everything about today's episode that really threw us all for a loop. Am I wrong or am I right?
Absolutely
Right.
I wasn't prepared.
All right, so we're going to start it off with Michael. How are you? What are you doing during this quarantine? Did you intentionally want to throw us all for a loop for this episode?
Oh, God. Well, first of all, thank you guys for watching and for supporting the show. It means so much. We are so passionate about it, and we have so much fun making it. And it's so fun for us to be finally sharing it with you guys. So thanks for that. In terms of what I'm doing during the quarantine, it's been pretty busy with work. So that's been sort of occupying the days and just worried about the world and trying to stay sane and all that kind of stuff,
Definitely.
How about you guys?
Yeah.
Another day,
I'm
another
Maria
wall.
Menounos, and
Yeah, right.
Another day, another wall. Another way to look at it. Another way to dress it.
Definitely. I took my first walk outside and my eyes kind of burned when I went outside. I was like, how long and what day is it? Like, what day are we even on?
I did a cardio yoga and I went a little way too advanced for myself. So I was yelling at the girl on YouTube and bouncing around and falling all over the place like I shouldn't have. But speaking of all over the place, let's talk about this episode because I feel like it was all over the place, but masterfully put together. So I'm going to go right from the top, and Katy and Mr. Guy. I mean, I can kind of see where like everyone like might not like Guy for how he's treating her, but I think he's just trying to give her a taste of the real world and like what it's like, how wherever you go, like there's always going to be that one person that the harder that they are on you is because they know you're so much more than what you even think you are.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I also think it's like Katy and Guy's relationship has been so charged from the very beginning. Like they started off in this weird place of like flirtation, but now that Katy's working for Guy, it's like their relationship has sort of shifted. It's like now he's her boss and Katy's his apprentice, so the power dynamics are kind of different.
I think also he's trying to establish, like he's really trying to establish you don't mix business with pleasure, because he kind of like already put his foot in his mouth with doing that towards the beginning. So I think now he's kind of like retracting, taking a couple steps back and like, okay, I got to do this because this is how the real world is, or not the real world, because some people do. How did we say we threaded in the company needle?
Yeah. You're putting your thread through your needle through the company.
Exactly. The thread through the company needle. But
right.
I kind of like it because what I really like about this show is as much as we want to make everything seem nice, you put that real world aspect of, yes, things have a happy ending, but the way to get to that, like there is still a real world out there and there is still a lot of obstacles that we've got to get through.
100%. It's sort of like when we were breaking this episode in the room, one thing we all shared stories about the first time we had like an internship or like when you start a new job and you're so nervous. It's like, am I standing in the right place? Like, am I breathing too loud? Like you're kind of questioning yourself and your skills and if you belong there or if you deserve to be there. And like the pressure of a new job like highlights all of that imposter syndrome, I think, that a lot of us share sometimes. So putting Katy through that, it's like Katy all her life has been sewing for her friends and making clothes for herself, and she learned to sew for her mom, but now she's making clothes in the real world and her skills are also being put to the test in a new way. Like over the course of the season, we haven't really seen Katy fail at designing yet, and that's nice to see her, like what happens when Katy is put through the ringer,
Right.
For sure.
Brian, what did you think? Because I know you were like so like about this episode.
I loved this, and I 100% agree with the whole aspect of realism. And Michael, when you said charge, that was like the perfect way I described like the two of them, especially Guy, because like he was like all up in there, like, no, do it again. And I was like, if you don't just take off that turtleneck right now. Because it was like, I felt it. I felt the energy from both of them. But I love how you also, like you said, you showed the change in the dynamic in the end where he was like, let's keep this professional and I want to help you grow. And I loved how he didn't just fire her, because I really, really thought that was going to happen. I thought that he was going to either fire her or Gloria was going to love it. I thought Gloria was going to love it and she was going to be right. But the whole idea of him being right and like, okay, let's learn from this. Let's make it better going forward. I love that so much. So it was just great. So well put together.
I didn't think he was going to fire her. I definitely thought that he was like trying to prove a point. But like, also like when he was standing there while Gloria was like, obviously like tearing apart that dress, maybe not tearing it apart, but in her eyes, she was like tearing it apart. I think he was almost there like, you know, I wanted you to see this for yourself.
Sure.
I'm here for you, but you got to go through it like I went through it kind of thing. Like, because I'm not where I was because I just took it, you know, like I had to take it in, process it, learn from it. And then he ended it with a positive saying, you know, you did it impeccably, like you did it perfectly. Eric, what did you think?
Now, Michael, maybe you can chime in because I noticed the energy shift when they were standing there in Gloria's studio, looking at the dresses. And when he looked at Katy and saw the look of just sheer frustration. Now, what if on the other, like, what if her face showed more of like a, oops, I'm sorry. Do you think he would have still been sympathetic? Because she looked like she was on the verge of cracking. So I feel like he was like, okay, let me explain what this is before I break this girl. But maybe like if she would have been like, oops, sorry, would he have still kept being tough? Or would he have eventually just dropped the wall like he did? Do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't know if it was like a writer's cue or something like that could have shifted the dynamic completely, but that's what I'm asking Michael specifically.
No, that's such a good question. I think you clued in exactly what the episode is about. So I think Guy is acting the way he's acting in the episode because he's under tremendous pressure. And when he sees Katy's heartbreak when her dress is rejected, I think he understands that because he's been there too.
Yeah.
So I think you tapped into really why he has such a turn at the end, because I think he sees himself in her in some respects. When he was working for Karloff, I think he's probably been in similar situations. And it's such a hard balance. It's like Katy's taking initiative, she's crossing boundaries, but it's coming from such a good place. Like she wants to help and she wants to prove herself. And I think Guy knows that, you know?
You know what I really like when you say that she wanted to prove herself, what I really liked about this episode is I felt like everyone was being true to themselves and proving themselves in their own way. Just like when Josie went and found her own band, even though he went and found the band for her. Like when she went, like she found them like they found her. She found her in the bathroom. She was found in the park. You know what I mean? Like she kind of gave it that, like, I loved Josie's role in this whole episode because she's like, I don't care what you want me to do. I'm going to do what I know is right and what feels like me. And I feel like everyone had that in a little bit of a different aspect, but everyone like put their foot down and stood up for who they were and what they wanted as a person in their own personal life.
I agree. And it's also, you know, I took away some like lessons from this too. And I was also reflecting on my life and I'm like, this is really real life. And because, you know, it also proves the point of when things are meant to be and things are for you, it will happen. And I think a lot of times, like you were saying, like we get so caught up in our own head of like, oh my God, and micromanaging ourselves in our heads that we don't really get the time to really enjoy the moment and understand what we are. And also, you know, Josie, I was in the episode because literally like when I moved to LA, I had to make a decision one time to really stand on my morals and really stand on who I am as well as a person, and taking that value, and it is what it is. Like, this is what I'm bringing, and if you don't like the flavor, then I guess you can't hang.
That's it.
What about you, Michael? I mean, when you were writing that part, I felt like we saw so many different sides to Josie that we hadn't seen before, and it was none of it was weak. There were so many little things that she like kept saying in such a strong, dominant force that I was like, I walked out of this episode and I was like, okay, now I know why. When we all asked each other, like, who would be your friend? I was like, this is why I would choose Josie.
Yes.
That's such a good question. So I feel like Josie, ever since she got to New York, she's been sort of like in this web with the Cabots. And like now Mr. Cabot's like, you should bring your band back together. She's like, okay, I'll try that. And then she shows up. And I think that like was the straw that broke her back. It was like, I need to start taking control over my career. And like, whether Alex agrees or not, whether Mr. Cabot agrees or not, like if I'm going to reboot the Pussycats, which is already weird and emotional because it's my band from high school, I'm going to do it my way. And it's nice to see her be strong and to steer her ship. And I think what's really nice about her storyline is that she inspires Alex to also find the strength to stand up to his dad, just something we really haven't seen before yet. And by the end, it's like you really feel their connection deepening. Like I think it deepened in episode 6 when he opens up about his addiction, that he goes to rehab. And then I think it deepens again in this episode where they sort of are both brave together, which is really nice. And also shout out to Ashley Murray for just carrying this storyline in such a beautiful way with the documentary format and stuff. I thought she did such a good job.
Yeah.
That was so cute.
Yeah, I really liked that he wants to like document everything. I'm just like, you know me, I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, I hope later on down the line it doesn't like come to bite them in the butt, or like it comes and backfires on them. But I definitely like how Alex is just so ready to like, he's just like ready to like forget my dad, screw my dad, I'm my own person. And then I love how Mr. Cabot's always like, you know, he's trying to throw in his face like, I gave you the trust fund, I gave you this, I gave you that. Like he tries to break you down with like everything I gave you, but it's like we could still be our own person with what we have. So I think, I mean, Sanaa, she's ready to say something.
I was going to say, there's always that one person who always likes to hold things over your head. And he knew what he was doing a couple episodes ago when he was like, you know what? I'm going to give you what you want. All you got to do is just make sure you take care of my son. That part like made me explode because it's always that one person.
Right.
Yeah. I want to play like devil's advocate really quick though, because I'm not saying that you should, do whatever it takes to get ahead, but I feel like if I was offered a record deal right there, I would say I'll take the models and they can be backup and I'll be front and center, because I would still be getting my career. I mean, sure, she has her morals, and that's what I loved, that it was painting that picture that she really stood her ground and wanted to do it her way. But girl, if you have the record deal right here, I would just take it, just being honest. So,
but I also think that it's a certain level of artistic integrity. It's like knowing what I'm gonna go for versus what I'm not gonna go for. And this isn't a band that she was just thrown into. This is my band that you know nothing of, that you're now trying to saturate with these broads that can't carry a note or play an instrument. So it's like
not even a triangle.
You're right, not even a triangle. Like, girl, no, like I'm with Josie completely for that.
I mean, it wouldn't be too far-fetched as to what we see nowadays. So I mean, that's a little real life. But I feel like what was really real life that I was like, whoa, was Pepper's little secret. That okay. So I'm just gonna and whoever wants to talk about it, have at it, because I was just like, wait, what?
Eric, you go. I know Pepper's your girl.
Pepper's your girl.
Yeah, she keeps the show spicy. It's all in the name. I don't know. It was interesting. I felt like I got a lot of Pepper this episode without getting a lot of Pepper this episode.
Okay.
It was like I found we got the big, what it is at the end. her being married or trying to get divorced, but I just felt like she was kind of everyone's transition. She was just there when Katy needed it. She was there when Jorge needed it. But it was just like, Pepper, when is Pepper getting that moment to really clear her life up? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And if I can tease, do you want to?
Please.
Oh,
Yes, please do.
Well, in this episode, obviously there was the big reveal that Pepper is married to
uh-huh.
to Hannah Melvey, and we will really dig into Pepper's backstory before the end of this season.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
the best episodes of the season. It's really special. There's one scene with Lucy Hale and Julia Chen that's like incredible.
So
I'm
I
excited.
okay. So a
Excited.
follow-up question is: so will we start to like Peppa more, like have more empathy for her a little bit more? Because she's been really scandalous. You guys been making her scandalous through this whole thing.
I like Pepper.
Okay?
No,
I
that's
like
true.
her.
And I, you know what? I do, and I like Pepper too. But you know how Eric was like, when is she gonna get that support? Not until she fully opens up. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is she gonna get the support that she needs? Because
Yes.
she's got this facade. She has this mask, so no one knows exactly how to help her.
And
So
if her
it's
name
like,
is really
True.
Pepper.
Yes.
maybe it's salt. At this point, maybe it's salt. Okay.
We're gonna
Yeah,
have
she
all
was
the
salty.
spices between Ginger, Pepper. We'll just have everybody.
Right. Paprika.
Pepper is like the agent of chaos on the show. Like she's the mysterious one. But what's interesting about Pepper is that she really is always there for her friends. Like she's such a good friend. She's always at the apartment. She's always there for Katy. Like there's such nice history between them. And I think you'll all be surprised when we dig into her and her backstory. Julia Chen is also such a wonderful actor, and she gets to play some different notes that we haven't seen yet towards the end of the season. So I'm really excited for you guys to see it and to see your reactions.
Yes. I'm ready.
I mean, if I don't know if you've seen the episodes before this, but I always say that we're like a bunch of little degenerates on this panel. We're all excited because I mean, this show is done. You have done a phenomenal job in, you know, because sometimes people think that just taking from a comic and putting it onto the screen is so much easier, and it's so hard to make things relatable now. And you have found a way to take the comic, which is usually like another world, it's a sci-fi world, whatever you want to call it, but you have taken it and molded it into such a way that it relates to everyone in the real world, and it is transcending so well, and you are making such good points, and the way you are connecting to people and the issues that you're talking about, you're doing it in such a way where it's tasteful, it's real, and it's impactful. So I think for you, that's, you know,
Yes, girl.
That was great, Yvette. Yeah, it's
Like,
a dreamer
You said
show.
it for all of us.
like,
really
I
good.
mean, I'm not gonna lie, my brother is huge into comic books, and he's read the Archie comics, and I've touched on it here and there. And when I read it, and you know, when I started watching Riverdale, I was like, how are they going to do this? They did this. And then Katy Keene, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to. And I remember from the first episode, I was like, how has someone made me more of a fan from a show to a comic than from a comic to a show? That's something very hard to do. And kudos.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Yeah.
That's so nice. A big thing we always focus on is like, what's the essence of the comics? What are these amazing characters in the Archie comics that we're sort of basing these characters on? And then the big thing we think about is, how do we three-dimensionalize them? How do we deepen them? How do we find a twist on them? So thank you for saying that. It's obviously I'm so obsessed and such a fan of the source material. So I'm happy to hear that it's translating well to screen, because we're so passionate about it.
What, like, when you're going into these episodes and when you're trying to, you know, put it all together, where's your mindset? Like, how do you get your inspiration? Where do you draw from? How do you focus on putting all these things and making sure you really hit all these points when you're writing these episodes?
Really good question. So Katy Keene is a show about dreamers. It's about people in their 20s living in New York, and they're all chasing a dream. And that's a life that I've lived. That's a life that a lot of the writers have lived. So I think with a show like this, we have such an interesting sort of diverse room that everyone has a different POV, and everyone at one point was a dreamer and tried to make that happen. So I think a lot of it is, what are the relatable stories, stuff that we've been through, that our characters can also go through. I think is the biggest thing that so it's a lot of finding what's true for our characters and what's relatable. And what's really special about Katy Keene is that there's diversity in our cast, but there's also diversity in character. It's like everyone is chasing something different, but what brings them together and what binds them and what makes them a family is that they're all in this together. Like they're all going after the impossible thing together. Like it is so hard to make it as a singer or a designer or on Broadway or even if you're hustling like Pepper. Like, you but what they have is each other, you know. Like the heart of the show is when they're all in the apartment together having drinks, talking about their days or the people they like or how they failed or their wins. I think that's really what the heart of the show is that family, that friendship, because they really are a family.
Right.
And going off of that, which character do you relate to the most and why?
Asana, you beat me to it.
We're here.
If I had to pick who I was as a character, I really do think I'm a mix of Katy and Jorge.
Ooh,
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
spicy.
let's break this down.
Yeah, why'd you choose Katy and Jorge?
Gosh. This is really hard. I think with Katy, I feel like I really relate to her optimism. I feel like she's been through so much in life, but there's something like even though she's sort of had a really tough upbringing and she's on her own, I feel like she always comes at life with like a positivity. And I feel like that's something it's how I try to live as well. Like, it's like, no matter what's happening, it's like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go for what I want, even though things are hard sometimes. And I feel like I really relate to Katy in that way. And then in Jorge, I'm obsessed with Broadway.
Oh,
Yes.
I feel like between those two things, I can sort of make up the second half.
What about you, Eric? Because I know you wanted to ask that question. So if you had to choose what character you would relate to most, which one would it be?
Probably, that's tough. I want to say I'm a hybrid between Jorge and Josie.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
I relate to Jorge's zest and this urge to be bigger than the box that others try and confine you to. And that feeling of making everyone comfortable with you while also becoming comfortable with yourself. And then I relate to Josie in the sense of like, I'm gonna get to the dream, like, because my mom was very 9 to 5, like, you got to make money, just being a parent concerned about my well-being. But I'm just like, I see art, I see My Name in Lights, and like, I'm gonna make you see it too. And I feel like Josie is on that path now, so a hybrid.
There we go. What about you, Bryant?
I want to say Jorge just because of that three-way, but no.
I can always count on Brian to just say something that is gonna make me. You have made me so much ugly Ursula laugh.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Michael, what is the rating for Katy Keene?
PG, isn't it?
It's the normal like CW rating.
Brian.
For Bryant, you're gonna have to end up putting it on HBO. Okay.
You're gonna have to put rated R.
Yeah.
Michael, it's so funny. Literally, I was watching the episode and I texted these guys. I was like, you guys, they didn't give me anything in that three-way. And then Yvette was like, wait, this is CW. I was like, true, this is an HBO. Like,
So funny. That's so funny. You do have the waking up scene the next morning.
I texted them before I got there, and then I was like, okay, I'm fine. Like, that was good.
But if you had to relate to a character, Sana, who would it be?
I would say a mix of Katy and Josie. And I say Josie I'll start with her because the same light she had when she moved to New York, that was me when I moved to LA about a year ago. Like, I was literally like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, yes. And, you know, like feeling that new LA like vibe, that was me. And I love how she still is like pursuing her dreams and just going out there. And she's, you know, she's a cute Black queen like me. So, you know, of course.
Yes, there you go.
And then I would say Katy because she's so determined and like, I think a perfectionist in a way.
Mhm.
And she always wants to be the best. And that's me. Like I'm always, especially in college and out once I left college too, I've always been like a stickler, like, oh, I have to be like the best, or how can I make this like exactly right? Like I was the annoying one that would ask the teacher every time after class, like, what was right? What was right? What was wrong? Like, can you help me? Like, and I feel like
the homework.
Oh no, because I probably didn't do the homework. But
you forget to do the pop quiz.
Oh no, I wouldn't know what's on the pop quiz. So
Oh my
I was at that one, not that one.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think it would have to be Katy and Josie and a little bit of Jorge, just because I come from a Hispanic background, so I know what that dynamic is like being in that family. And I grew up a dancer, a performer, but I couldn't sing, so I could never be on Broadway. So my dream was shut down there real quick. But I really like how Katy, her dream has a lot of sentimental value. And I feel like my dream myself has a lot of sentimental value. Like there's a lot of sentimental connections that I have to it. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about, you know, wanting to be a woman in that industry and really pushing it, because I'm like, I grew up around it. I'm going to do it. And that's how I feel like she sees it. And she's like her mom. And I've got like my dad, my grandpa, you know, I've got all these things like coming out at me. And then Josie, because she's just a very strong person and she's been tried and put through so many things where her character has been in question and her integrity has been questioned. And at the end of it, no matter how bad she wants it, she's never going to sacrifice those things.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think, you know, a little bit of those, all those, a little bit of, you know, woman empowerment. I'm not going to let you tell me anything / I really want the fairy tale ending.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
How come none of us chose Pepper?
all of this, guys. This is making my day. You guys are.
Aw.
You made ours. Without you, we wouldn't even be
Yes.
able to do
I
this.
know.
Right. Seriously.
We love it.
And we didn't choose Pepper because we all know deep down inside we're a hot mess and we're just not going to say it out on for everyone to hear.
We all have pepper in us. 100%.
Yes.
Low key.
We all
Yeah.
have a little bit of pepper sprinkled around our
I
life.
love
Right.
But the
But are we gonna
last,
talk about the three-way?
that's where did you think that I was not going to talk about that, Brian?
We
Because
actually have to discuss that.
I was like, okay. So,
it was made clear in the episode when Katy was doing the voiceover. Be careful what you wish for, because you just may get it.
What did you guys make of it?
I thought it was perfect. I loved, at first I was like, why didn't Jorge initiate it? Like, why did Pepper have to plant that seed? But it made so much sense that Jorge isn't like that, you know, like Eric said, he's still discovering himself. So I love that Pepper planted that seed, like, you know, have an open relationship or try a three-way, you know? So that was so fun. And then when they're at the bar, when Bernardo gave Jorge that look, I was like, goodbye. And then when they got to the bed and he woke up the next day and Jorge was like, oh my God, what did I just do? I was like, wow, that was just like painted like Picasso. Like I saw it all.
I when I was watching it, I was like watching it and I'm like, in my head, I was like, I don't think he really wants to do this, because we saw how insecure he was when he took Bernardo out to the club and the guys were on him. And I'm like, it takes some kind of level of confidence to bring somebody else into the relationship and still have that confidence. Because let me tell you, if it was me, I'd be like, I ain't sharing anything.
At all.
Right.
I was like, if I'm not
Exactly.
sharing my French fries, you think I'm going to share my man?
Right.
Because like, let me tell you what it takes. Like I said, and there's people who do it. Not knocking anyone who does, but the most I'm going to share with you is the
Tequila.
there you go. The tequila. I don't know, but when I saw that, I was like, woo! And then he woke up, and she's like, "Be careful what you wish for." I was like, someone had a little bit too much liquid tequila.
We unpack a lot of like the feelings that you're feeling like in the next episode. Like that's what we do.
I'm not ready.
Oh my god!
I need clarity.
You know, they always say the outsider you bring in always sometimes creeps back, and then boom, takes your man, and then now you're the outsider, and now you have to find you a whole new man. Are you saying that might happen?
I'm not. I'm just saying that we put his feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it reminded me of? What like the feeling I got is like when I don't know if you guys watch Friends, but like when Ross says that they brought in another girl, and he's like, I just sat there and that's what I felt like. I was like, this is not, because I think if anything, okay, this is like really out there. If anything, what could have happened is Bernardo got attracted to the confidence that Buzz was bringing that Jorge was lacking.
Oh, see, and that's what I was
Jorge
saying.
gave him that confidence. Jorge gave him that
Yes,
confidence.
true.
On who I'm dating? Absolutely not.
To take his man.
Next episode, we're all fighting outside of Molly's crisis. That's it. That is it. Like, no.
I love these hot takes. I love it. I think on like on sort of a bit of like a surface level, what's important to us about this story is like it's a show about being in your 20s, and I think that to me it's refreshing to be able to tell a story about a young man in his 20s sort of exploring his sexuality in a safe, positive environment where he's communicating with his friends about it and his partner. It's nice to be able to have that kind of representation and story on TV, and especially on the CW. I think it's important. So I hope moving forward we get to see more stories like that.
Yeah.
Because it's important.
And I think it's important that you said that, because I feel like when stories like that are represented on TV, in a movie, in a show, wherever it may be, it's represented in a much more negative light, and a much more like they don't in a negative light. And I say that because like if it's careless, like if they don't, if these, people who make decisions like that, if they're going to do something like that, like they don't think about it. And I feel like this, like the underlying thing is there's communication. We talked about it. It's okay. Everyone's for it. So it's like, it's not careless. It's people do these things, and it's not always necessarily a negative thing.
For sure.
Yep.
And like I said, he does a way where he makes everything just seem so like, I mean, the way you write everything, it's like, yeah, this happens and there's negative repercussions, but hey, you do it in the right way and a positive way, and it all ends happy. Well, maybe. I don't
know what to think anymore.
I don't know. Exactly.
I don't know.
No spoilers. The next episode is really great. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, guys. I get such anxiety waiting for shows. I think I've gotten to the point where like I binge watch so many things that I'm just like, you want me to wait another week? Like, I can't wait another week.
I'll say the last 4 episodes are the best yet, and like it's pretty much like a roller coaster from now till the end.
Are we gonna cry too?
I can't say whether or not you'll cry, but I there are some scenes in upcoming episodes that made me cry, but so I think the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
And I was gonna ask you before Sanaa gets in my head again, Michael, what moment has pulled at your heartstrings the most thus far, or have we not seen it yet?
There are 2 moments in the season. One we've seen, one we haven't seen. One scene that's really important to the season and to Katy's character is the moment where she sort of confronts Jorge about her sewing machine. I think is a really important moment in the series, where we sort of see that what Katy grapples with every day, she doesn't show everybody, and it's sort of piling on, and then she sort of cracks and you get to see something that she holds inside of her every day, and it's something that never goes away, you know. Something like that never leaves you, and that's just part of grief, you know. And then another moment that's coming up, I'll say in episode 12, is my other another moment that really moved me this season, so I can't wait for you guys to see it.
We can't wait to watch.
Yes, I'm not ready.
What about you guys?
For what pulled at our heartstrings?
Mhm.
I
feel like Brian's gonna say it for me.
I feel like the I don't know if I want to use that word because it's a scary word, but the gay bashing, that was definitely very hard to watch. Especially like the setup of like, you know, leaving it as a cliffhanger, and then we're like, oh my God, did that really just happen? And then leading into the next episode with it. So that was definitely hard to watch. But in a good way too, because of the aftermath of how it kind of went in the opposite direction, you know. It ended with Jorge, of course, taking back his power, which I absolutely loved. So that was definitely one of my favorites.
What about you, Eric?
For me, I'm not sure if the aftermath of the gay bashing specifically, or just Jorge's interactions with his father, where he's kind of defending his person, just because I know that feeling well, not necessarily with my father, but just like having to defend something that I don't even feel like needs defending. Like, this is who I am, take it. Like, I don't ask you to change who you are. Like, so I feel all of those moments.
I love that, guys.
Sana?
Oh, I would say mine would be when Katy's sewing machine broke. And you guys know I was going in on Jorge. And I literally, that like hurt me because I knew how much it meant to her. And it's just like when someone's so close to you that you love so much, and you have that last piece of memory for them, it can really like tear you apart when you don't have it anymore. Because I remember when so for my grandmother, she was literally my best friend ever, and when she had passed away, I was able to have her bracelet that she was still wearing. I was able to still have it. And so for me, it was just so sentimental. And one day, like, I thought I lost it, and I literally like fell to the floor, honey. And so that's how I mean, I didn't have nobody to blame but myself, but I didn't lose it. But the moral of the story is like, I felt that same pain that Katy felt when something you love gets destroyed. It's like, well, what else do I have?
Right. Right. I think for me, and I've said it before, I might not have gone through it personally, but I've seen family, very close family friends go through it, is the way the father reacted with Jorge. In all scenes, I really appreciate how it was written, how the father, you know, it shows him accepting it, but being scared, not knowing, trying to put like a limitation onto how much of himself he could be. And I really appreciated that the realness of it, and it shows him accepting his son but being scared to fully accept his son. And there, you know, there's demons that he battles with, and of course Jorge battles with trying to be his own person and show his dad who he is. So I think those moments, like, I watch and I'm just like, it pulls at my heartstrings because I've seen it happen, and I've seen the ugly happen, and I've seen the beautiful happen, and the way it just transcends through the screen, like, to everyone. I really appreciated that. So I think those moments for me. Okay, so no more crying and no more deep talks, because we take these episodes and we dissect them in another.
Yes.
I love it.
But Sana does have a very fun little moment here for like our special segment. So Sana, why don't you let Michael know what's going to happen?
So this will be 60 Seconds with Michael, which is you. And so we did it with Camille too as well. And we got some fun responses. So I have a list of questions and the challenge is to get through all of those questions before the timer. So can Eric, can someone like count?
I'll do a
60
timer.
Seconds?
Yes,
Perfect.
I got it.
Okay, and then tell me when to go.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
You're stuck on an island, Jorge or Pepper?
Pepper.
Favorite TV show of all time?
6 Feet Under.
Last movie you watched on Netflix?
The Babysitter.
And favorite drink at the bar?
A skinny margarita.
Yes, I love that.
Something you learned during quarantine?
I really like to cook.
Favorite cartoon?
Oh God, I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh.
Love.
Like
Favorite song? Favorite song to sing in the shower?
3, 2, 1.
The pressure. Was I would say Strongest Suit from episode 5 of Katy Keene.
Oh.
Well, I think that's gonna wrap everything up. Or do you have an extra question? Because I saw you.
Well, since we're still in quarantine, how many rolls of toilet tissue do you have?
We have so there's a local restaurant. It's called oh God, it's called Sage, and you can get toilet paper delivery from the restaurant if you
heard about that.
Yes, yes.
Good tip.
Cool.
How many rolls?
Everyone's gonna be calling them for rolls now.
Right.
Well, Sage, you're
Also,
welcome.
I really appreciate the Aaliyah poster. I'm a huge fan.
Oh my God, that's my
Yes.
favorite artist. That's great, Michael.
Well, this has been an amazing time for us, and we loved having you on, Michael. Thank you so much for taking, the time out of your night and the time out of your quarantine. We know you're still busy with work, so thank you for coming on to the show.
Yes.
Thank you guys. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you guys watching and supporting. It really does mean the world to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. As you guys know, I'm Yvette Sanchez. You guys can always find me at Sports and Sass with 3 S's on everything. Bryant, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at the Bryant Santos, and also on AfterBuzz TV's Quarantine with the Stars.
There we go. And what about you, Eric?
On Instagram, you can catch me at The World According to Eric, and YouTube at Eric Devante.
Alrighty, and Sanaa, last but not least, where can we find you?
Yes, find me on Instagram at IAM_SANA_ and on Twitter at IAM_Sanaa.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We had such a great time. We cannot wait to see the rest of the episodes and how the season pans out. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.